why don't we just take a minute and why don't you introduce yourselves to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do, what your role is in the organization. Ifkin, let's start with you.
I'm İlgen Güner. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Business Finance at Oracle. And I have roughly about 1,000 people around the globe. And we support every line of business on all of the predictive analysis, the financial analysis, all the management reporting, and the business partnering, management systems, maintenance.
I'm Delphine Bernard. I'm the Global Head of Finance Operation at Uber. So today the function is in fact the global sourcing team, the supply chain, the logistic, the travel expense, the procure to pay, order to cash, payroll, as well as the shared service organization for the finance department and the brand new Center of Excellence for the intelligent automation.
So I'm Jessica Ross. I am the head of Global Office of Finance Transformation for Salesforce. My story is a little bit different. I've only been in this role for about 90 days, and it's a dream job because it's actually a blank canvas job. And so within the scope of my organization, I've got business process innovation and global shared services right now. But I also have the opportunity to design people strategy, change management, and org enablement, as well as technology innovation and org enablement, and really design program management and project management for the entire organization of finance.
Let's talk a little bit about setting the discussion around customer-first organizations, customer-obsessed organizations. What does that mean to you? And more importantly, how have you combined technology, process, people, as you lead that customer first?
So I would say that customer obsession is a true value at Uber. And I think what is really important, it's not only the external customer, but also the internal customer, which is quite important for finance. The second part is like really ensuring that we bring a lot of diversity and focusing on the people with the team and the organization. Diversity helps companies to be more on their toes, to be more ideas, to be more sharp, to bring more different thinking. And when you bring different thinking, you ensure that you also bring like more answer and like touch base with your own customers. So ensuring that you have that internally, externally is very important to us.
I also think we've got to be transforming in the lens of two customers, our business partners and our external customers. And as we think about finance transformation, I think everyone is trying to solve for this problem. We've got all these sexy technologies out there right now, but no one's actually really designed the future organization and knows what that looks and feels like. I think the CFO is emerging more and more as the decision maker with our core customers. And so they're asking to spend time with us, and they're looking to us to say, what are you doing to really drive finance and scalability in the future in a digitally enabled world?
Thank you. That's a great segue into agile finance. I'd like to ask Ifkin to lead this discussion. What does that mean to you? More importantly, what does it mean to the organization?
We actually did conduct participated in a study with AICPA. And when we conducted the survey, it was really bounded into three specific things. It's organizational excellence, digital intelligence, and business influence. What it really means in my mind is really making sure that you have the setup right, all the back office right, and all the processes and address properly in such a way that you're setting your organization for a success. And the second step to that is once you set it up properly, it is really your intelligence. And that means the digital intelligence in this world. You're using your digital intelligence to really arm your people to become those business influencers, which is the third piece of the success factor in agility. So business influence is actually what I do every single day. And you have to really have all of the data available. You have all the intelligence available in your fingertips to really navigate the business and address all the problems so that your customers are successful, your business is successful, and your people are successful. You have to move fast and you have to address the business problems.
We hear more and more today about like agile and what does it mean? It's really the fact of like being able to act fast and iterate and then like really look at your process, but like dissect your process and then looking at every little piece of it and what is the addition of everything, and then start working on every little piece and making sure that you go fast enough to do your run and cycle to check what needs to be changed, how you change it, can you change it, does it work, does it test, and you start over and the next step. And doing all those little revision makes your process improvement. And we have 12 months, 18 months, and then after you make a check, that's not going to work anymore. So really pushing on that mindset, like, yes, you can go try. If you do a mistake, it's fine, but correct it fast. And that's really what is changing more today.
I agree with all of this, and we've got to get agile. I think what we don't talk about enough is the big behavior shift that's required to get there, especially with finance people, especially with people who are not digital natives, that have not grown up figuring out how to use a different phone every single year. I think the second thing on agile is as I'm doing a lot of reading on kind of finance orgs of the future, I think once you have a digitally enabled world, you're going to have more orgs where you're going to have, there's going to be a core set of people that do kind of more of the, the daily work that's still going to exist. But there's also going to be an expectation that you have kind of finance resources that are agile. Here's a business problem. I'm going to SWAT team in, pull this group together, solve the problem, and then they're going to go back to do something else. And the behaviors that are going to be required to do that work is something that I really think we need to be more intentional about as finance leaders, to make sure that we keep people out of retirement before it's time to go.
We're going to now go into a little bit more of a depth or discussion around each of those pillars. Delphine, why don't you take the operational excellence? Tell us a little bit more about not just the finance operating model, but how have you implemented it and what results have you achieved, and are there any lessons learned?
There's like 3 areas to focus on: the people, the processes, and the technologies. Mm-hmm. And you really have to go with all of them along each other. Sometimes they will move at different pace, but overall they will go and come together. If you don't train your people, if you don't do the right way, if you don't change their mindset helping to get there, it's going to be very difficult for them to move on. So the two other pieces are like processes and technologies. With the processes, it's really important to automate good processes. And often we have seen in some lesson learned is like when we automate the wrong processes, or we don't look at it, or we try quickly to do a bandage or a fix, that is going to go for a failure. Review the process. Is it the right one? Is it the right one for your country? Or is it the same thing you can apply in a different country? And really learning from each other is like how you move to that one. The third piece is on the technologies. So last year we started developing the robotic process automation as a great way of like linking some of the tools together and making those automation and those checks that we had to the companies. And that's where the agile piece came into place as well, is really looking, we don't want to automate maybe the full end of the spectrum, but there's maybe one specific process that's taking a long time for people to look at. And one example was on the PR side, where we thought like, we had 7 to 10 people just visiting, ensuring that they were the right coding for accounting, the right coding for the tax and all the different teams that couldn't be fixed within the tool. And then we implemented robotics to fix those solutions, and I had like decreasing the number of like people reviewing those pieces. So we're really changing the mindset and putting those automation to really drive operational excellence.
You really have to push for that operational excellence if you want to be successful in this environment. So what we have really accomplished in, at least on my side over the years, is really the testimony that I can tell you all is that over the past, like 10 years or so, I have not added one more headcount into my organization. I have a very savvy numbers metric, incredibly smart CEO that I support. And so when you're walking around the pond, if I get a chance, that is, at Oracle premise, and it's inevitable that you're going to get some question or rather from one of the top executives on the 11th floor. So you want to be able to answer those questions. The only way that you can do that is really having that organizational excellence, that where you scaled, you have all the digitization available to yourself, but most importantly, you have the right skill sets in the organization who can really come up with you. And last comment on that is any change, as you very well know, any change is really change in the people, in the behavior. And it's not the technology, as one of our CEOs very nicely put together, it's the sociology of the people. It's not the technology. So the minute that you change that mindset, you're already succeeding.
We're going to explore into the second pillar, which is really digital intelligence. It's combining finance, operational with third-party data. And I know Jessica is going to give us not only what that means to her and the organization, but some real examples of how you've leveraged it both in the past and maybe even currently today.
So when we think about digital transformation at Salesforce, we think about three pillars. I think the customer, we think about integration, and we think about analytics. And we've spent a lot of time talking about the customer and how important that is. From an integration perspective, that means taking all of your data sources and pulling them together to create a holistic view. I think for us, the acquisition of MuleSoft last year really changed the game for us in that front. And then from an analytics perspective, how do you see all the data in your company to inform new insights to help drive better business decisions? And the recent announcement of our acquisition to Tableau is changing the game for us on that front. And so when I think about the power of those two together and what that's going to do as we're kind of thinking about finance transformation at Salesforce, I think that is, it's an extremely powerful opportunity that's gives me chills about what's to come.
Bringing visibility to your customer will be the real game changer. Of course, you need to have all the work being done in the background and being ready for that. But what has really changed for us is this year we start finally to bring numbers. But bringing those numbers really help to change the behavior and push accountabilities to our different business partners, because they finally were able to see real time every day what was happening in the business in terms of like the travel spend and the fraud activities or the issue that we were seeing with some of the behavior of some of their team in terms of like how they were spending money, how they were tracking that to budget, and really being able to bring all the technology together from like multiple systems into one solution that you can have either on your phone, on tablet, on your computer, really like was an eye-opening to see like how much powerful we can have with numbers.
The third area is business influence, and you talked a little bit about that, Ifkin, so I'm going to start with you. How do you really influence, and what are the things that you've learned in that area of influencing? Because you're close to the data, how do you not only tell a story, but actually get that change, that action?
There is not a single organization at Oracle who does not use his or her finance partner when making decisions. But that is actually takes a long time in the making. You have to earn the trust, you have to deliver the results, you have to be able to be persistent and make sure that your voices are heard, but arm yourselves with the right information. I can give you multiple examples of how we actually have helped Oracle in making some of the investments that we needed to make because we had the information, we had to be persistent. I remember going into the executives' offices on and on, constantly making sure that I'm making my point. So my suggestion to you all is that make sure that you have your organizational excellence, you have your digital information intelligence available. But again, that influence goes a very long way. Make sure that you portray your case effectively with the right information. And then you can start influencing the organization. You want to become that shotgun driver and you become navigator to the business at any given time.
Something that I really learned from Ifkin is also do the scenarios. Almost anticipate that questions, it's always that ad hoc question that once you've spent all your time preparing, doing your homework, ready to present, it's have you also run a couple different scenarios so when you get that question, you know in your head, yes, we looked at that, and here's why we're not recommending it.
So the question that you always have to ask is the why and not the how, because how it goes along with it. It's in our DNA. We know how to do how. But most of the time, we don't know why we are doing what we are doing. And that is the most critical thing. Challenge yourselves, have the scenario analysis, and anticipate. And also, make sure that you really train your folks. And those of you who are really coming up to the ladder right now, be open to looking at things a different way. Just because we learned it one way doesn't mean that it is the right way. You may have a different way. And I always just tell my guys constantly is that you look at a pyramid this way, I actually look at it upside down because there's a value to it as well.
Jessica, you're in this new role at Salesforce. And so in many ways, all that collateral that you had at Stitch Fix, you're now really in a very new role and a very important one from a business influencing perspective. Tell us about your approach and what you've learned both at Stitch Fix as well as at Salesforce.
So I think Evgen hit it. Trust is such an important quality and pillar that the machines are never going to be able to build. And I actually spent the first 60 days on a listening campaign. And I talked to probably almost 80 people, 60% in finance, 40% in the business. I touched 9 different regions. I got as much information as I could. And then I shared kind of what the insights I had gained from the organization with my peers. And they were like, you actually listened. And I'm still building trust with my team, with my peers. And so I think that's like one of the biggest things as I've kind of just learned along my journey on how you influence, you've got to start with trust. And that's through personal relationships. And that's something only you guys can do as individuals.
Delphine, let's end with you because I know we want to take a couple questions from the audience. 4 years at Uber. Wow, what a ride and what a lot of change at Uber. And tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, especially because I sat next to you at the luncheon, and your ability to influence and bring change both to your team as well as to the organization.
One of the things that I truly discovered at Uber is on the influencing side is like how you need to adapt your message to the people and to your organization. And I would say that I really hit the bottom and took it very hard, I think, early on when you're in finance and everything you hear is like, we don't want to hear about finance. Your compliance, we don't want to hear the word compliance ever in this room. And we will just simply do your own way and you just can clean up everything after because. And then it's pretty hard when you get into that situation. It's like, no, we still need to do something because, for all the financial, you all know that I'm not going to enumerate there. We need to get things in order and we need to start being compliant. We need to start moving that. We need to change our way how we talk to the business. We need to show them that we're different and we are there to help them and to support them and in a nice and friendly way.
Well, based upon some of the questions, the next generation of leaders, you're already way ahead thinking of all the different things that not only we're tackling today, but in the future. Let's give a round of applause.